This is probably the #1 reason we play board games.
Do we need to talk about your childhood?
Anyways.
Fail, 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 and then boom!
Welcome to the Game Garage. What is today's video? What are we talking about?
Okay, this is unique for us. We want to do a video that's kind of a little different than what most people might think. We really want to do a video on what makes games fun.
We have 5 points each about why we play a board game. We're going to grab a game that illustrates that point, and hopefully maybe along the way you'll see a game that you're like, oh, I've not heard of that, or I have heard of it, and I'm interested in playing it. So it's kind of like we're doing 2 things at once. Again, weird video.
It might not work.
And I might edit out all of this.
And back down to 5 subscribers.
Right.
Let me start us out. Can I start us out?
Yeah, go for
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so football, Hallmark movies, and Secret Hitler. What do they all have in common?
I don't
okay?
know.
To me, here's one of the things that really makes games fun. It is a new story, but I'm going to start it out with it is a predictable new story.
All right, you're going to have to explain that.
Okay. We'll make fun of a Hallmark movie that it's, you know, the same thing. He drinks his coffee cup. He's got his little... He's like the perfect Hallmark guy.
I didn't even plan it. Somebody knows on his list.
That's right.
I'm helping illustrate for us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So you got the little Hallmark guy, you know, and you got the business guy and the girl, and it's like a predictable story, but they have different names and a different job, but you can like predict what's going on. But football, okay, it is the same thing. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. Something amazing's going to happen I didn't expect. What's going to happen? I don't know. But at the end of the day, somebody wins, somebody loses. The reporter at the end says, how do you feel? You know, what's going on? Like, it is so predictable. Secret Hitler does that. Like, it is a predictable game that I know exactly what's supposed to happen. The replayability becomes so much fun because I just don't know what the new story is going to be. And I enjoy playing a game where I understand the characters, I know what's going to happen, but it's a new story. It's never been played before.
It's almost like games are structured storytelling.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I think we all crave a good story. And what board games provide is a structure upon which we're going to hang things. And that's the predictability of it. Especially Secret Hitler, where the structure follows the same kind of set of predictable rules, but it's all the variations that create the story within that structure.
Yeah, it's like at the end, you know, in those final rounds, this is when the game is won and lost. Just like the fourth quarter, you know this is when the game is won or lost. And just like the last 10 minutes, this is when the wedding happens or the kiss happens or whatever. You know, you just know that's the way it's structured. So for me, Secret Hitler goes on it because it's predictable and it's a new story.
Putting yours up here.
Oh, yes, we are trying, we're going to try this
new
here.
Things, so
there we go. Predictable new story. There we go.
So for me, one of the first things I wanted to talk about, and this is something you probably mentioned more, it's probably where I got this, was from talking with you, it's this whole concept that I love board games because I like decisions that don't have real life consequences. Not that there's no consequences. I want there to be consequences in the game for the decision, but I love that I can make these really complicated, juicy decisions and nothing in my life is threatened, and I'm not worried about breaking anything or paying a lot of money. Like, it's all fake.
Yeah.
But I love making decisions.
When you go to jail, you don't really go to jail.
Right. So for me, the game that just kind of embodies that is Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe, if you haven't played it, do yourself a favor, play it. There are moments in this game, and specifically when you get event cards, that give you a choice. They give you a decision, and you don't know what's going to happen as a result of that decision. It is so fun to make that decision, and you kind of get the adrenaline rush of like, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen, but you put it back in the bottom of the thing, and you know it's going to show up, and you're just hoping that that was a good decision. But again, at the end of the day, I walk away from the table, and I may have gotten my hut burned down in Robinson Crusoe, but my house will still be standing.
Okay, so mine is just a little bit different. Okay, hand me the button. I need the button. Okay, so mine is actually choices with consequences. I don't like to play a game that is actually, well, just do whatever you want. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Like, it doesn't matter which way to go. For me, it was hard to pick between this game and Great Western Trail. Great Western Trail was the other one that shows, it just gives you a decision that you've got to make, and you're like, oh, Maracaibo's that way. Oh,
anything Pfister. I mean, anything Alexander Pfister touches, you're walking away, you get into that game, and it's just, two decisions in which the consequences are long-lasting. They're going to affect you the rest of the game.
And I like Great Western Trail. I should have brought it. Great Western Trail because
I could put it up.
Because the decision, right? The decision sits there, and it's one or the other. The reason, though, that I like Robinson Crusoe is because you've got a ton of decisions. Oh, I could do this or I could do this. Yeah. And this is what makes me keep wanting to play the game, because when I finish all the cleanup, and I feed and I lose all my points, it's like immediately I want to go and figure out where all my pawns are going to go. And I want to make those choices. And it's like it's an endless circle of making these choices. Now, when I say with consequences, I enjoy making a choice that determines whether or not I might win or lose, die or live, continue on. I don't want to make that in real life. Like, I have a tendency, to play it safe and be careful, and especially if I'm working with people's lives and stuff like that. I don't just get to whatever.
It's this weird thing where in real life I don't want the consequences. I'm afraid of, like, those big decisions.
I want to be really careful.
Scary, right? I don't want to take risks. But there's what board games give you is a sandbox in which you can be risky. You can live a little bit outside of your personality.
Yeah.
You can try things that you couldn't do in real life, and that's just
I get to live on the edge without being a snowboarder trying to do a 720 and living on. Broke my back.
Right. My next one for me. This is kind of funny. I play board games because my friends play. I don't have a game to go with this one, other than maybe Crossroads. So Dad and I building Crossroads back when I was like 11 or 12. It's not like we played a lot of board games. I mean, we hadn't really gotten into board games as a hobby. You were kind of in it for your job, for camp, learning different games and different mechanics that was useful. And for me, sure, I enjoyed a game of Dutch Blitz, but my sisters always destroyed me at it, so it wasn't like I loved it. And yeah, I liked Uno, but it was a social thing, and Apples to Apples was a social thing. I never viewed board games as a hobby that I would pursue. Once I got to college, and after we had built Crossroads, and after we had spent more time playing board games together, and then I had more friends that were interested in board games, and he had friends that were interested in board games, the more I'm surrounded with people that play board games, the more I find myself going, oh yeah, I want to get into this hobby.
It's kind of like you have fun having fun the way they have fun. You don't realize how fun it can be until you're having fun with them, and you're like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. I have a game that would actually be this way. We just played Gladius, and
so good.
I got this game Kickstarter, and we just haven't played it. And we were at the end of the night after all day playing games. We're like, hey, let's try this game. And we read the rules and played it, and man, it was fun. And I don't think Bodhi came down later. I don't think you would have played it.
It's not one I would usually pick.
Pull this game out and be like, oh, let's play that one. That looks cool.
I played it because we were already playing it, and there's a lot of people that I'm friends with playing it. And I ended up having a blast because my friends were playing it.
My next one is the concept of my plan. I don't know what it is that we just enjoy putting a plan together. So for me, the game that does this for me is Memoir 44.
Oh, it's such a good game. You had it over there. I've been eyeing it. I've been waiting for you to bring it out because I love this game.
Yeah, this one throws me into a scenario immediately. It doesn't have this blank slate where it takes you 30
minutes. There's no build up.
Right.
It just.
You're here, you've got these tanks here, you've got this here, you've got a river here. Now what are you going to do?
Yep. And the box does not look like that type of game, right? It looks like one of those really tactical, long, think a bunch. But this one chucks you into the game, and you're forced to make plans fast.
It puts you in right where it's good, right where you need a plan.
It's the climax of the movie.
Where all is lost, you're never going to get out, and the music starts playing, and you start doing your push-ups, and the next thing you know, you've won, And this game says, okay, I get to start working the plan and see what happens.
This one goes really close, hand in hand with your plan. This, for me, is the adrenaline rush of getting away with it. And this goes back to having a plan.
This is my son talking. Do we need to talk about your childhood?
Anyways. No, but it's the fun. It's not just getting away with it like people didn't see it coming or like a social deduction. Like Secret Hitler, there's the adrenaline rush of pulling it off. You pulled off this heist almost. That happens in things like Memoir 44, where you have this plan and you're waiting for your turn, you get to play your cards, and boom, it works.
Yeah.
That little adrenaline rush, when I think back to all the games I've played, and the games that I keep coming back to, and the games that I think about at night. It's the ones where I had these little moments of adrenaline where I pulled something off. My plan succeeded. It's the part in A-Team where it all comes together and all the welding happens and then the tank works. Like that I didn't just make a plan, I got away with that plan. Like that plan was successful. For me, one of the best games that does this is Moonrakers. It is a heart-pounding experience. And it's kind of funny to say that about this game, but I have almost every time I played it, when it gets down to the last couple turns, man, it is a heart-pounding experience to try to like pull off your plan because you're doing a little bit of press your luck. You're trying to see if your engine's going to work the way you want it to. You're trying to go out and do it on your own. You put together this plan. You've got one turn to pull it off.
Yep.
And when you do, it feels so good.
You're trying to get people, like, you need this card in order to make it happen. So you're kind of selling other cards, and it's like you're just heart is pounding, but you're trying to keep the poker face.
You're trying to like stay even and make it look like you're not about to win.
But
yeah, in your head, you're about to win.
Yeah.
Moonrakers does this. Windward does this. There's just a couple games out there that do that well.
For you, so is the adrenaline rush from the win, or is
no? I would say the adrenaline rush is the lead up, and sometimes the win and the failure. Because to me, it's win or fail. I still had the adrenaline. That's social deduction for me.
Yeah.
You're just trying to pull something off that almost seems impossible, and that's.
I think that's why board games, just get so thematic, and that's why you like the theme in the game. Is because you want to live that character. You want to be like you're in the story and you are actually that character. The game is helping you.
That was one of the points that ended up ending on the cutting floor for me. Kind of an honorable mention is part of why I enjoy board games is I want to be someone or do something I couldn't usually do in real life.
Yeah,
and that kind of gives me the ability to be somebody that I'm not normally. All right, what's your next one?
Okay, next one for me is a concept we've talked about at camp quite a bit, but it's called the thrill of skill. The thrill of skill for me is an interesting one because it's the recognition that it is really fun to get good at something. And this is why some people don't like board games, because they're playing with a group of people that are so good at it.
Already have the skill.
Right.
Yep.
That they just look like a total idiot playing the game. This is why I don't, I don't get on a roller scale or a skateboard because I have no skill whatsoever. But when you look at what's the trick that you're doing, and they mentioned one of the 300 tricks that you're doing, and I'm like, what was it that you did? But it's the thrill of skill. That's why you keep practicing it. It's almost like this. This is the nice way of saying I actually like the failure. Like, I actually like that you're gonna.
It's the process of getting to the skill.
Because when I fail, and then boom, I got it. And so the game for me on this one is Seventh Continent.
That is a perfect fit. Perfect fit.
Yeah, and so Regicide is the small game that fits here because you fail. And I have to warn people when I play Regicide, be prepared for 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt for a while, but that's what makes it feel so good when you make it.
Yeah, and Bodie and I have played this one, Seventh Continent, and you realize somewhere in the game, what? I lost my leg?
Yeah. And there's no way to get it back? And I've been playing for 10 hours?
10 hours, and I'm about to die?
Yeah.
And our deaths are like, oh man, that was 12 hours of and now I'm toast.
And if you're not familiar, it's a permadeath system. The moment you die, game's over.
Yeah.
And it's a campaign cooperative. It's 30-hour, 40-hour game for one campaign. And you can lose all that progress in one dumb decision.
And this is a game probably a little bit more survival than what most people recognize. Like there's a mystery to solve and there's discovery. Probably on the cutting block for me is that idea of discovery. And some games play this discovery really well. Continent does that as well. But it's like discovery. I'm discovering how to live. My character is getting better. They have a great way of bringing your character up. Gloomhaven does that too, where you're just getting better at what you can do, and that's just fun. And man, my character is getting stronger and better, and I can do things
this one,
I couldn't do.
In opposed to like a Gloomhaven, yes, Gloomhaven, there's thrills, but you do get better at using your cards, and you get more powerful. I think, and maybe I'm going on a limb to say this, I think Seventh Continent does thrill of skill better than Gloomhaven
I think
because
so.
you're not upgrading. You rarely upgrade. Your character stays fairly static with only a little bit of upgrading. Most of the time, what makes you more successful is your own knowledge of the game and
Yeah.
your understanding of where's the hunting grounds, how do I get food, how far can we go before we need to get food, and once you get that little system down, I mean that took us 5-10 hours
Oh, yeah.
of failure over and over. Like this game seems impossible. It's because we hadn't mastered the hunting mechanism.
Yeah, a combo that we just really, and you needed to just squeeze everything out, and it's called skill for a reason. Now I think some people don't have the patience for that, so it's a certain type of person who actually enjoys that kind of game, and you've got to be careful. Not everybody's going to be here, but it's one of the reasons some of us play.
And I think it brings up a really good point there. As a board gamer, and you probably have friends you've been trying to get into board games, it's almost like you have to be aware of this, where
Yep.
you have a lot of skill if you've
Yep.
been playing board games for a while. And people aren't going to... Did we lose our fire?
That
People aren't going to play if... They're just not going to play if there's no hope of succeeding at all.
Right. Yeah, because it's not the thrill of death, not the thrill of failure. It's actually the skill to say, okay, I'm getting good enough at this that it's actually working. And I think the really good games, I think video games actually do this really well.
Yeah.
They give you the little tutorials. They give you small success early on, which allows you to get better and better at it. And board games, a few of them do this really well. And you'll see some of the little practice rounds, or I do that a bunch with
Jaws
games.
of the Lion, the first 5 scenarios, it's all
Yeah.
intro. It gives you little successes so that your skill
You're like,
grows.
oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here's this one for me. It's this whole concept of doing with and being with, but specifically it's doing with and being with that revolves around each other. Watching a movie, that's being with. You're with each other, but it doesn't necessarily revolve around an interaction between you. There are certain sports, same way. You're with each other, but it doesn't revolve around actually interacting. Board games are completely interactive. Some aren't. This is why I can get my wife to play. She doesn't love board games, but she cares about me enough to say, sure, I'll play a game with you. And she usually walks away enjoying it just because we got to spend time together. I think that's why people go to restaurants.
The do is just eating.
Yeah, it's just eating with. There's something to do together, and it revolves around us interacting. And this, to me, is kind of the golden goose of board games. We're just constantly interacting, hanging out, doing things together.
So for me, I said almost the same thing. Relationship, be with, do with, as my top end. But this is where I understand, okay, relationship is where it's at. What was your game with that one? Did you have a game?
I got distracted by the camera. This camera just shut off. One moment. That camera just died too. Calico. This game is actually my wife's. I'm not a big puzzle person. Like, I enjoy a good puzzle here and there, but if I had a choice, I'm going to play something more story or thematic or dungeon crawly or something bigger or something like that. Puzzle games aren't my go-to, but I'll play this because my wife enjoys it. And we enjoy being together. This game is actually not a lot of interaction, but we end up talking throughout the whole game because it's just a type of game you can talk in. I think Everdell is another example. I almost grabbed Everdell. My wife and I love Everdell. It's one of the few games that we can just keep coming back to and keep playing. And we're at the spot where we know it so well. It's such a simple game to grasp your turn that we can talk through the entire game and just relax together.
Yeah, and those are interesting because you're not playing against each other. You're playing a game with each other. Mm-hmm. You know, and you're going to compare a score at the end. There's a way of seeing how well you did in the game, but it really is just a reason to kind of be together.
I think we should do a quick fire round of some of the best relationship building be with games.
I've got one that I'm just always amazed. Just one. Cooperative game. Yeah. This is a great family game. This is a great group game. We actually play this game like with 40 people and just play a whole bunch of games and then let everybody just interact.
I'm adding in Azul. I know that one's a lot more just you and your board, but it's such a relaxing game that it opens up, like, conversation can happen while you're playing. It's really easy.
I'm going to bring up an old one because this is an old-time favorite. Personal Preferences, like an 80s game.
That's an old box.
That's a serious old box. This is eBay special, for sure. But basically a whole bunch of dated pictures from the 70s and 80s. But it basically says, in what order do you like these 4 pictures? And your partner predicts what your order is, and you can bid up 1 or 2 or get your score. But all it is once again a structure to say, why do you like that? Why don't you like that?
It's like a giant getting to know you game.
Exactly.
That's one of the best getting to know you games.
Right.
It's just so fun.
Really fun. So for me, that's right up there on that list.
All right, we better move on. This is probably the number one reason we play board games. This is, if we could narrow it down, this is why I like a board game. And that's the simple concept of camaraderie.
Yep.
I love working together. I love building a rapport with somebody, a relationship with them through board games, because there's just nothing that compares to the feeling of accomplishing something together. This is where cooperative games just take the cake for me as some of the most enjoyable gaming experiences because of camaraderie.
And this begs the question now, because board games done wrong kill camaraderie because of the competition. Now you'll notice that none of us have put under here, because I win!
Yeah.
Because many times I don't win. In fact, most of the times I don't win, and yet I still play. For me, there's a little thing that sits on this. It normally sits where all of this is sitting, and you never see it in the videos, and it's kind of been added to the game garage. It's this thing right here, and it's a scale, and it's got this. This was our effort at a little person a long time ago, and what it recognizes is that people are more important than the game pieces. This is where, if you're going to play games, you're not playing them right if there's not camaraderie at the end.
I think we can all agree that board games should draw us closer together.
I mean, this is why families would play board games together, not so that Dad can beat all the little kids. For us, Crossroads was one of these interesting games. Started when you were 11 years old, and we're still building on it. And it's what brought us together in a camaraderie. It's like all of these things fit under that big category, camaraderie. There's more to this list than right here. What makes a board game fun? This is just our first stab at it.
So if you have some thoughts, if you have kind of your list, put those down in the comment section. We'd love to read your list of things, your 5 reasons you play board games. And I think this is a revisit. I think in a year we might come back to this and adjust maybe some of our answers here. But I think it's a fascinating thing. I think as a hobby, any hobby, it's fun to consider, why do I enjoy this? And
when you figure out why I like this game, we just played Monsdrawsity, and my wife, she doesn't normally play games, and she's played Monsdrawsity 2 or 3 times, and she just so enjoys looking at each other's pictures and laughing at each other, and like it gives her the relationship right there. But she won't play almost any other game. When you figure out what makes you like it, that then tells you, then there's these other 500 games that I will get into. And it will also tell you, there's these other several thousand that I will not want to play. And that just makes it fun to know, to not waste your money on a board game that really wouldn't be any fun.
I think this will also help you guys kind of understand where we come from, especially when we're reviewing games. Take our reviews with kind of this structure. This is kind of the lens we view board games through. And so if you don't agree with a lot of the things on our list, you're probably not going to agree with a lot of our board game reviews. And that's fun. I think that's part of the fun. But I think this hopefully is helpful just for you to understand kind of where we come from. And we truly are just curious what you're interested in when it comes to board games.
Thanks for watching. We really do appreciate it.
Did you ever drink any of your Pepsi?
I did. I drank some of Pepsi.
I just feel like I've been drinking my coffee this whole time.
No, every time you would talk, I would get a little bit of a drink. It's hot over here next to this fire.
It is. I'm actually surprised my seat didn't melt.
Right. And you're still drinking coffee, and I'm drinking at least ice cubes.
This is actually a brilliant thing. It keeps my coffee really hot, setting on the fire. Pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for watching.